Brian Blackwell. I'm a member of the Corvair Society of America, and this is a 1966 Corvair. Fisher Body in the mid-60s went away from the rubber gasketed windshields and started doing the rope seal glue-in style windshield. And if you're familiar with any of the cars from this era, you'll notice that most of them rust around the base of the windshield. This is a fairly rust-free West Coast car, and we had big holes, we had clear rust issues. So the project is to replace this panel. Now, I had my local club over, Northern Virginia Corvair Club, and we already removed the panel. So what I'm going to show you today is what's underneath the panel, because that was really kind of a lot of the thought and slowness and issue. If I'd really known what to do and what was underneath the panel I was removing, I think it would have gone a little quicker. So that's what I'm going to go over with you today. Okay, so I've already removed this panel, as I said, but I've got a piece of it here. And as you can see, all nicely rusted out. Now, the thing to understand is that you have really three pieces of metal coming together here. You have, this is the cowl, and it wraps up under here like this. You have the dashboard, and then the windshield panel itself sits on top of there like that. Couple key things that I noticed was there's a good spot to cut right here, because as you can see there's this gap right here like that. Otherwise, I just basically sectioned it with a pair of aviation snips, and then I just peeled it back and worked it until the rusty part snapped off. So once you get this off, you're going to be left with a variety of spot welds. There were spot welds all through here. Now this is important to know because this is structural right here. The dashboard and the cowl come together, and then it supports the loads that come through the A-pillar and up the door pillar. So you want to, when you put this back together again, you want to be able to put it together right. So to do that, you're going to probably be left with various strips of metal that you're going to have to remove. You can use this. This is a spot weld cutter. It has a little pilot here, and it's basically a really small hole saw. And what it does is it will cut down in there and cut away the metal so that you can peel it off, and then you grind back the remaining stump, this spot weld right here. So that's what I'm going to be doing in the future. You can see that I've already ground a couple of them off here. One other piece to be aware of that wasn't at all obvious until I got this apart and got it wire brushed is that you have this metal extends from the steering column support and comes up here, and it's sandwiched all together. There's another brace on the other side that supports on the passenger side of the radio. Now, when you're doing all this, an important bit of the prep work that you want to be able to do, you can see that I've wrapped my steering wheel. Also, the front seats are missing. Okay, we took those out. Not so much that we're going to do any big damage to them, but they are going to be very dirty. You're going to make a big mess because you got to wire brush out and grind out, take care of all the rusty bits here, and guess what? That's going to just go everywhere. So when you're doing your project, when you're in your planning process, think about kind of where everything could go. Obviously, you want to be able to have the car inside somewhere as well, because the windshield's going to be out. It's going to be exposed to the elements. So that's your prep work pieces that you're going to want to consider. Now, we're going to want to eventually get this to the point where we've got really nice metal to put my new panel on with. There is a lip right here. It's probably a little hard to see in the video, but if you see that shiny spot right there, there's actually a flange that the new panel is going to set down in. The other piece you're going to have to look out for is right here. I've got a rust hole. It's rusted all the way through. So I'm going to have to rebuild some of this cowl right here to make sure that I don't have any water intrusion, because water could potentially come up through here and the air pressure is going to push it up, and then it's going to come down, and then you're going to have wet feet. Or worse yet, your navigator's going to have wet feet. That's really bad. You don't want that. So we want to make sure that we have a good solid metal all the way across, and then we want to seal this whole thing. Now when we go to put the panel in, I'll do a video and I'll show you guys how I'm planning on putting it and making it all sealed in place and hopefully very structurally sound as well. That's really about it for what's underneath here. Just understand that there's these three panels. You're just removing the panel that's on top. So this really isn't that scary a project. There are certainly more difficult, more challenging pieces that you could do. It is a little bit fiddly, so you will need to plan some time. You're going to have a lot of spot welds all through here. It's not like some of the other panels where maybe there's a spot weld every 6 inches. In this case, we had spot welds every couple of inches because, again, this is an important piece of the structure of the car. So you really want to do this right so that way when the car goes back together again, it doesn't squeak, doesn't rattle, doesn't leak. Everything works the way you want it to. Okay, so once we get all of this cleaned up, we're going to be able to put our new panel in. This part is a reproduction from Clark's. It's galvanized. Fits in there pretty nicely. Now, the thing to understand is, as I mentioned, this is a fiddly job. And part of the reason it's a fiddly job is you have to clean up all those spot welds. So I'm going to have to go and do a lot more cleanup work, and that's why we're just doing the video this way. We're not going to bore you with me doing 5 hours of grinding, which I already have about 5 hours into the car. So, as you can see, our flange here is shallower. Now, they give you extra metal in case your whole dashboard is rotted away here. Okay, this car, again, is pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this essentially to the factory line. That's one step. Now, you may be wondering how we're going to get this to fit. We're going to do two ways. First of all, we've got the vent panel that fits right here. And we'll put that back in, and these are the tabs it sits on, so we have that side located. The other thing I did before I cut the old one out was I made these spacer bars. I just went down to Home Depot to the body shop supply section and got myself some plastic trim, so it's nice and straight, it's dimensionally stable, and I marked where they're going to go, marked the size. Obviously they're not going to quite fit in there because the panel isn't going to quite ready to fit, but when I'm done, this should all fit together, and we're going to actually glue this into place. We're going to use some epoxy structural adhesive. The reason for that is because you've got to fasten this in 2 different dimensions. Doing a spot, I don't have a spot welder, first of all. I would be MIG welding it in place. And again, we want a lot of strength here. So my feeling is that the epoxy will do 2 things for us. First of all, it will give us all that strength that we want. And second of all, it will form a seal all along here. So this will help make the car last another 50 years. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I have some work to do in the meanwhile, and the plan is we're going to do a second video, and you all can see what it looks like once it's ready for the new panel, and the panel itself is prepped, how we're going to line it all up and fasten it in place for the glue to set, and then we'll probably do the actual glue job then, so that you can see kind of the whole process and how to make this all fit. Now, I will point out there is one other thing, kind of a post job. After this panel's done, some of this rust did carry over into the corner here, so obviously I'm going to have to make up some patch panels and get this all to fit. But the first step is getting this piece in place. Once we get this piece in place, the rest of this should be relatively small work, and we'll be able to finish the windshield area, do some epoxy primer, and then it really won't rust for a very long time. So, that's all I've got. You can visit the Corvair Society of America at www.corvair.org. Find out about your local clubs. My club has been a lot of help doing this kind of hands-on work. Other clubs do other things. A lot of people do tours, there are meets, there's parts availability, and the best part is you can get access to a lot of experience and real hands-on kind of stuff where somebody can point at the car, tell you what they did, tell you how it worked, maybe how it didn't work out. Sometimes those are the best stories, is find out when something didn't quite work out. So hopefully next time we'll show you how this did work out, but if there's a problem, you'll get that too. That's all I've got.